Are you a world politics geek or follow international news regularly? In that case, you've probably already heard that as of May 28, 2023, Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is all set to start his second term in a row. What's interesting, though, is that while the president is the same, the geopolitical strategies of the country are taking a drastic turn this year. Elections aside, Turkey's geopolitical significance has always been discussed. Are you wondering why? Well, Turkey is a classic geopolitical middle power. What that means is that the country on its own isn't strong enough to enforce any policies or laws on other countries. Nevertheless, it's not so weak either that it'd have to obey or live under the rule of any other powerful country. Turkey's somewhat a middle child, neither as powerful as the firstborn, nor as weak as the youngest ones. No offense to the younglings. Geographically speaking, Turkey is the bridge between Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. No wonder it's always confusing to determine which continent it falls in. From where it lies on the map, you can probably guess that Turkey is at the very center of all political drama, so to speak. Something is going on every side. Towards the north, there's Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. The south is packed with the Syrian attack, the Libyan security crisis, and nuclear negotiations with Iran. And the east has the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, waiting to welcome the Turkish government. And if we're being honest, Turkey has been involved in the region's Syrian war and Ukraine-Russia crisis over the past 10 years. Hence, it's almost impossible to ignore the country's geopolitical importance regarding conflicts and political stances in the region. Most of Turkey's foreign and domestic policies depend on what's happening in its neighboring countries and how developed countries like Russia, the US, or the EU react. Thus, it's almost a surprise that Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan confidently claims that the country has zero problems with its neighbors. Returning to Turkey's latest strategic changes, brace yourselves because this will be shocking. Whether the world likes it or not, Turkey's new foreign policy is about to enter with a bang. So stay with us till the end and leave your thoughts on Turkey and its policy making in the comments below. Strategy Flip 1. Sweden, NATO, and Turkey. First comes first. We have Turkey, NATO, and Sweden. As you know, Turkey is a member of NATO, but there's one thing they're very well aware of. Not all of NATO and Turkey's interests align all the time. While Turkey has been a member of NATO since 1952, there have been several twists and turns in their love-hate relationship. And if there's anything for sure, Turkey cannot count on its fellow NATO member countries to support its decisions without any apprehension whatsoever. But despite that, Turkey's president made a rather interesting move in July. After blocking Sweden's NATO membership for a while, President Erdogan announced that he was ready to support it. On July 10th, just around days before the NATO summit in Vilnius, the president had a meeting with Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and NATO Security General Jens Stoltenberg, where it was decided that in exchange for Turkey letting Sweden in, NATO would support counterterrorism activity in Turkey, while Sweden will support their EU membership bid. What will the timeline look like for Sweden's ratification in the Turkish parliament? One can never know. However, Turkey took a step closer to a decent alliance with Sweden and NATO by giving in to one of their interests for one of Turkey's own. More explicitly speaking, Turkey has made an ally of Sweden on the southern front along the Black Sea to the eastern Mediterranean. But the president will likely wait to see what moves NATO makes before he materializes this announcement in the Turkish parliament. I am mildly surprised that this comes before and not during the summit, which convenes Tuesday, but overall it makes sense. It is a typical Erdogan move to take a maximalist approach in a high-stakes negotiation, show readiness to walk, then compromise for progress on key demands, said Rich Outzen, a geopolitical analyst for the Atlantic Council, in his remarks on this decision. And he's right. Because in a way, Turkey has played into what's best for their country's foreign policy. Turkey was never against having more members in NATO. They even supported Ukraine, Finland, and Georgia becoming a part of it. But in Sweden's case, they had a more significant interest. Better and stronger counterterrorism laws in Sweden and support for their EU membership. So they dragged this out until they had some green light in that department. But why right before the summit and not during? You'll have to ask President Erdogan about that. You might be thinking, wouldn't outrightly supporting something NATO wants piss Russia off? Maybe, maybe not. We'll return to that with Peter Zahan's analysis of Russia-Turkey relations later in this video, so keep watching for the spice later in the video. We know that Turkey has not had the best relationship with a critical member of NATO, i.e. the US. This move might be a way to try and mend ways with the West. Nevertheless, Turkey has been diplomatic with Russia since the Ukraine conflict began. For the most part, Turkey has been trying to stay pro-Ukraine without becoming anti-Russia. Therefore, only time will tell about how offended Putin gets over Turkey pleasing NATO for once. So far, from the looks of it, President Erdogan felt that it wasn't the best move to keep supporting Russia with closed eyes. Nonetheless, this decision to let NATO get its way into Sweden's membership was much bolder than most of his foreign policy decisions before this one. Strategy flip 2. Turkey and global supply chain. Next up, as we mentioned earlier, Turkey is more keen than ever to become a member of the EU, and from the looks of it, the only possible reason behind that could be economic. To put it differently, Turkey now wants to increase their role in the global and predominantly European supply chains that heavily depends on Turkey's relationship with the West and Europe. Turkey's geopolitical location that brings Asia and Europe is also a golden opportunity for the country to leverage the East Asian trade market. Hence, while it's not as surprising as the strategy change on the Sweden issue, Turkey's trying to extend its exports to the EU more than ever before and is also interested in relationships with East Asian countries like China and South Korea. This kind of seriousness from Turkey regarding the global supply chain was last seen when the pandemic was in full bloom and is now resurfacing after the horrific earthquake that the country suffered in the first half of the year. Strategy flip 3. Military involvement. Last but not least, Turkey's new military strategy to solve regional conflicts has also made headlines. Turkey has the second largest military force in NATO, just after the US, and while Turkey's military has expanded quite a lot in size, it's only recently that the government decided that they would concern themselves with military matters outside their borders. With a new assertiveness to bring order back, Turkey is now a significant player in the Syria, Iraq, and Libya conflicts. That might be because President Erdogan wants to leave his mark on the region. Nevertheless, whether this active military campaign is a disaster or a blessing is something only time will tell. Internal politics have also played a role in these remarkably drastic strategy changes that we're seeing from Turkey's side. President Erdogan's new cabinet is being commended, both internationally and domestically. If you look closely, some dominant players are out there this time. Turkey's foreign minister, Mr. Hakan Fidan, is a well-reputed spy master with Turkey's foreign policy in his left hand and geopolitical activism on his right. Moreover, we also have Vice President Sevdak Yilmaz and Finance Minister Mehmet Simsek, who are just a step away from putting Turkey at the forefront of global economics. Thus, we may have these men to thank for Turkey's unexpected and aggressive approach to geopolitics and economics. From what we've witnessed, the economic framework of Turkey's foreign policy now looks set to become more prominent. As promised, we will now glimpse what 50-year-old geopolitical writer Peter Zahan says about the latest developments in Turkey's politics and foreign policy. In his take on Turkey's presidential elections in 2023, Peter Zahan hoped that the country was ready for change after a 20-year-long reign by Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Yet it seemed that he was wrong. While half the country did vote for Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, President Erdogan managed to establish his government by a slight lead. Therefore, most experts assumed that the next 5 years would be the same as the previous 5 regarding foreign and political policy. But Turkey decided to shake things up in a way no one saw coming. Probably not even Turkey itself a few years ago. While we understand that Turkey's president is dealing with a lot of pressure here with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Zahan believes that Turkey doesn't realize its actions' implications. Turkey was playing the role of a mediator in the Black Sea grain trade, a deal Russia walked out of. And suddenly, Turkey is conveniently ignoring Russia and moving on to support whatever moves NATO wants. Two strategies on opposite poles. In addition, Turkey has also decided to keep moving forward with trade and agriculture in the Sea of Marmara region, whether Russia becomes a part of it or not. While these moves will put Turkey in a position of power in the area, there's only so far that power will get them, considering they might be getting on Russia's wrong side. And that's precisely what Zahan pointed out in his newsletter when he said, "While Turkey can project great power, it can't be done everywhere. Choosing where to focus will be done through careful evaluation of the neighborhood. Given the constant change in this region, it would be foolish not to expect Turkey's strategy to adapt and evolve regularly." The energy landscape is also rapidly evolving. While the rise of renewable energy and oil and gas production changes, moreover, Turkey's previous working class is aging and might not be a part of the economic and financial framework very soon. And if we speak of Turkish youngsters today, their philosophy and opinions on financial and geopolitical approaches differ greatly from their ancestors. Peter Zahan suggests that these less obvious internal developments could also impact Turkey's significance as an energy transit hub, potentially altering its regional influence. You must read his latest book or check out his interviews for more thought-provoking insights, but for now, the takeaway is that whether we like it or not, Turkey will shake the region like never before. To wrap this discussion up, geopolitical power plays keep changing occasionally. Nonetheless, Turkey shifted the entire dynamic of alliances, rivalries, and possible collaborations in the Asia-Europe region. While we may not see much consequences, a lot will happen once both NATO and Russia realize the full implications of Turkey's forward foreign policy narrative. How do you think Turkey's humongous strategy changes will affect global politics? It's going to be interesting to say the least. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care and keep exploring more about the world by clicking on the following video that pops up on your screen. See you in the next video, fellows!